Hello and welcome to the Note Coach podcast. I am your host, Suzanne Kohlberg. And today, what's on my mind is what was I thinking? So this morning, I was checking Facebook memories, as I often do. And I was scrolling back and looking at some of the things I'd posted, some of the things I was wearing, some of the things my kids were wearing in the photos. And I was like, what was I thinking? And I just want to talk about that. Have you ever had a moment like that? Or how often do you have a moment like that? And how many areas in our life does this apply? You think back to something that you bought, whether it be a holiday, whether it be a coaching program, whether it be a diet, whatever it is, you bought something and now you're reflecting on it and you're like, what was I thinking? And I think that we're often so hard on ourselves. Like, if I hadn't spent that money, how much money would I have now? Or if I hadn't wasted that time, or if I hadn't done that thing or made that choice. And what I really want to encourage you to do is to give past you some grace. Because as I was reflecting on that this morning, when I was looking at my photos, I was like, what was I thinking? That was a different Suze back then. Some of the pictures, like I have chronic back pain. So when I was trying, like one of them was I did this MLM for weight loss. I have since sworn off MLMs. I'll never, ever, ever join them again. But I was in so much pain that I was willing to try anything. So what was I thinking was I want a way out of this pain. Another picture was I was at an event with a group of people that I now no longer associate with. And what was I thinking at the time? I wanted to fit in. Like it was like share this thing and tag us and be part of the group. I wanted desperately to fit in. So what was I thinking was that everybody else was doing it. When I look at some of the pictures of my kids, what was I thinking? I was so tired. I probably wasn't thinking at all. I remember when my kids were teething and I just tried all sorts of things because just constantly crying. And in that place of pure exhaustion, I'll try anything. And when you take the time to reflect on this, when you take the time to pause your scroll and your judgment and what was I thinking and really step into that version of you, they had a reason for the thing that they did. And to give yourself a bit of compassion for all versions of you. And I was chatting to a client this morning and she had a moment like this. She had bought something and then it turned up, kind of like when you order something from Wish and you're like, what on earth? And it's like, what was I thinking? I was like, that's however many versions of you ago. Every version of you, every part of you has contributed to the you that you are today. So when Facebook memories comes up, or if somebody reaches out that I haven't spoke to in a few years and says, how are you going with this? I'm like, oh, that was 6, 7 versions of Suze ago. And at the time, that seemed like a great thing. And I think that allows all versions of us to have a place, to have a space. Like, think back to when you're a teenager and the music that you used to listen to and the clothes that you used to wear or the things that you used to do. How many versions of you ago was that? And at the time, it seemed like such a great idea. But you now, it's funny, I'm reaching the age now where, my jams, the songs that I liked as a kid are now being played in the supermarket. It's like, that's a new level. That's a new level. But, those things. And then the other thing, so I have 2 kids, Xanthi and Casimir. You'll hear a lot about them on this show. Casimir is 7 at the time of recording this. And he wanted to create recently, a couple of weeks ago, a time capsule. He'd seen it on a show or something, and he's like, could we make a time capsule? I was like, why not, buddy? He's like, where can we bury it? And I was like, I don't know. Like, we're renting the house we're in right now. I'm like, how about we just put it in the back of the Harry Potter cupboard? We'll tape it up and we'll write the date on it and we'll unpack it when we move or however long. And he's like, okay. So he went around to Jeremy and my husband and to Xanthi, his sister, and to me, and wanted everybody to contribute something for the time capsule. And I was like, okay. So I gave him a DVD and he just looked at it and he's like, what is this? And it was so funny because, you know, since streaming services, Netflix, Amazon Prime, we don't use DVDs anymore. But when I was a teenager and I got my first DVD, I felt like so cool. Like this was the coolest thing. Gone were the days of the VHS and recording stuff off TV. Now we have DVDs. And, you know, that, I don't know how many versions of Suze that was ago. So what was I thinking? At the time, if I look at how much I spent on DVDs over the years, and now I can just literally look it up on Netflix or Amazon or whichever other streaming service and have it instantly. At one stage, I owned like 1,000 or more DVDs. Like, I used to have like a library, like an unofficial library, and people would come over and borrow them. But yeah, when you look back, what were you thinking? At the time, yeah, that was cool. Or at the time, that was available. Or at the time, I was lonely and I wanted to fit in. Or I was in pain and I'd try anything. And the gift of hindsight for so many of these things for us now, the current today version of us knows better and does better as a result of the past version of us experiencing this. So when you catch yourself saying to myself, what was I thinking? And wishing that you'd save the time or you'd save the energy or you'd save whatever else it is that you wanted to save, I really encourage you to just take a moment and allow yourself to step into that version of you. How old were you at the time? Like me, another one I think about is when I was a kid, Cabbage Patch Kids were so cool, but they were also pricey. And my parents didn't have the funds for that. So I had the knockoff Cabbage Patch Kid. And I remember all my friends like pulling down the pants on the Cabbage Patch Kid because the official Cabbage Patch Kid had a signature on its butt. When they pulled down the pants on mine, it didn't. And I remember taking it home and crying to my dad and him getting out like a permanent marker, like a Sharpie, and autographing the butt of my Cabbage Patch Kid. At the time, I was horrified. And, you know, what was I thinking? It was like, I would have done anything to have a Cabbage Patch Kid like everybody else's. I just wanted to be a cool kid. I just wanted to fit in. And now it makes a funny story on a podcast 30 odd years later. So the things that in the time you look back on can also be some of your fondest memories when you get past the what was I thinking and allow yourself to experience that as a different, I was to say more evolved, but, you know, more mature version of you. I hope this has been entertaining. Let me know. Send me an email, info@suzannekohlberg.com. What are some of your what was I thinking moments? Do you have your own Cabbage Patch story? I'd love to hear it. Bye for now.